60 Minutes Rewind.
If you think that the ignominious fall from grace of Martha Stewart is the last we've heard from this remarkable woman, you do not know Martha Stewart. She seems to thrive on adversity, often leaving a wake of battered enemies and friends behind. For 9 years on both 60 Minutes and 60 Minutes 2, we've been sort of keeping tabs on her, following the arc from so-called domestic diva to corporate billionaire. In the light of her disgrace, the guilty verdict last Friday, some of those conversations now reveal a certain irony. For example, back in 1995 at her estate in Connecticut, where I asked her about the importance of material wealth.
To tell you the truth, I could leave this place tomorrow, except for my animals and my family. I could leave this place tomorrow and not feel any sense of loss whatsoever, because I know with my knowledge I could go anywhere and create a life for myself and create a feeling that I feel comfortable with without having what I already have.
And start all over again.
Oh, sure. No problem. I wouldn't miss a thing.
Last Friday may have been her darkest day. Her finest hour came in the fall of 1999 on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange when, to the sound of bells, the private Martha went public, leaving no doubt that Martha Stewart was not just living, she was reaching for the sun. The occasion was the public offering of shares in her company, 7.2 million shares. They opened that day at $18, soared to $52, and settled at $36. With Martha Stewart's personal 70% stake in the company, by the end of that day, she was $1.2 billion richer.
No other woman has created this kind of business in such a short time, from scratch, from baking cookies in the basement. If you can find that person, let me know, who took a company public and in the first day, made, over $1 billion.
And all of it done without an ounce of humility. 9 years ago, she had already become Martha Stewart the brand, a walking, talking, multi-million-dollar, one-person corporation. There was only one direction, up. You have now entered the culture, whether you like it or not, as a kind of icon. You have. You're everywhere.
Well, icons are either believed or not believed. Icons are reviled or admired. I know all about icons from history. And if that's what it takes to be an icon, then, and if it's my kind of work that is encouraging these sentiments, then I either sort of ignore it or feel sorry for it or just, don't pay any attention.
It was a name and face revered by millions. And what she was selling was that most indefinable and ambiguous of all products, taste.
These open nicely.
In books, in the Martha Stewart magazine, on the Martha Stewart television series, she became the American goddess of the kitchen, living room, garden, and boudoir.
Yeah, call it into the magazine and get me.
But when you peeled away all the hype, the perfection in every department,
okay, well, find out that number and call me back at the office.
what you got is what you started with.
How great, I'll have a dinner.
Martha Stewart. She was, someone said, as focused as a bullet in flight.
Find out if there's somebody else that can fill in for the next 2 weeks.
This image, or this symbol of impeccable taste, of ingenuity, of gastronomy, of botany, of agronomy, animal husbandry, what are the one or perhaps two things you can't do?
I can't concentrate on games. I lose my concentration really fast.
So you do not really abide frivolous things, frivolous activities?
Not much.
It all started as a small home-based catering business in 1976.
I love that.
And became Martha Stewart Living Enterprises, probably the only one-woman, one-person conglomerate.
They fall apart really fast. Photographed when they're in bloom would be so beautiful. How about the compote with the balls?
All of its value embodied in this uncompromising body. Parody was irresistible. Her magazine, Martha Stewart living led to Is Martha Stewart Living? A funny, sometimes cruel version of Our Lady of Perpetual Perfection, offering such handy tips as making your own condoms and how to sweep.
They're having me make dirt. They're having me make water. They're having me make air. You know, guess who makes those things? I don't make those things. There's somebody else out there that made those things.
This study in middle-aged American elegance started life as Martha Costira of Nutley, New Jersey, one of 6 children in a working-class family. She does not believe in the work ethic. She is the work ethic. She was a favorite of fashion photographers, earning her way through Barnard College in New York, where she was a star student. Then marriage, the suburbs, family.
I did have the perfect baby and the perfect young child, and I did have the perfect house, and I've done all that already.
She neglects to mention the perfect husband, Andy Stewart, a publisher, who became imperfect and left her after 29 years of marriage. That was just about the time Martha Stewart became Martha Stewart. I can't think of another example where an entire corporation, which is what you are, is really one person. That's it.
I know, it's a
apart
real
from the help.
peculiar, it is a peculiar situation. And it's a single person kind of corporation because I have a name that's on the magazine, that's on the television show, that's on the books.
But there has to nevertheless be a difference between that person we see on the television broadcasts and the magazine and the beautifully produced books and the person I'm talking to right now. What is the difference?
Well, there's not really much of a difference. I am Martha Stewart, and my business has become also Martha Stewart. That's the complicated thing for the people who work with me.
Complicated because there was no separation in her life. All work was fun, all fun was work. Do you ever kind of wake up in the middle of the night screaming,
Happy?
terrified?
Oh, terrified or happy?
Both.
No, I'm not terrified at all. I'm very happy.
Back then, the Stewart Empire occupied 5 floors in New York's highest rent district and had 400 employees. Her magazines had 9 million subscribers. Her books, 8.5 million sold. It's estimated that Martha Stewart has now lost nearly $400 million on legal fees and lost business opportunities, and may lose millions more when fines are imposed.
Our little nut with a little nut on top.
The losses are stunning. It seems unlikely she'll be able to remain on the board of the company she founded. The New York Times syndicate removed her name from her columns, and her television career may also be coming to an end. For years, her program was broadcast on various CBS stations.
The next Martha Stewart Living.
Today we're going to teach you all about colored diamonds and gems.
After the guilty verdict, those stations immediately dropped her. And Martha Stewart, the brand? Kmart remains silent about continuing their relationship with Stewart, but when we talked to her in 1999, her sales through Kmart alone were $1 billion. As we said then, Martha Stewart wanted to fill every casual, practical, and romantic need Americans might have, and she hoped to create a few along the way. The Martha Stewart Weddings division was only the beginning.
Once we get you married with weddings, then we, of course, have to, have the babies, of course.
And then at Kmart came Martha Stewart's Everyday Baby. Get them in the cradle, and you've got them to the grave. So perhaps one day, the Martha Stewart Everyday Casket, which raised the question, can there be a Martha Stewart without Martha Stewart? Too soon to tell. But back in those pre-felony days, 5 years ago, she and we were full of optimism. Tell me something. When I come back 5 years from now to do the second update,
I can't wait.
how big will you be?
Well, I think, without making any financial projections, I think it will be astonishing.
Astonishing, but not the kind of astonishing she meant. The federal accusations against her had already emerged when she was doing her stint on CBS's The Early Show. She made it clear it was something she did not want to talk about.
Hi, well, we're going to make salad, but...
We are, but first let me ask you a few things.
I have nothing to say on the matter. I'm really not at liberty to say. And as I said, I think this will all be resolved in the very near future, and I will be exonerated
I know
of
that
any ridiculousness.
Alas, poor Martha, it was not to be. Clearly devastated by the likelihood of serving prison time, but still her steely nature would not allow her critics the satisfaction of tears. The Germans have a word for it, Schadenfreude, the pleasure we get from others' misfortune. Jay Leno did not hesitate.
And if you're trying to reach Martha, she has a new cell number. Cell number 68! Hey, there's a million of these! But God bless her, she is a businesswoman through and through. Do you see what this just came out today? I couldn't believe it. This is her new magazine. This is Big House and Garden.
Not so long ago, she was immune to even the cruelest parody.
I have quietly been plodding along like that poor old tortoise all these years, building something that is of great worth and value. I think that finally shook people to an awareness that, that I'm not a parody. I shouldn't be parodied. I shouldn't be sort of fooled around with like that. That's serious business.
In the end, it may have been sheer hubris, a belief in her own infallibility that may have been her undoing.
I always thought about the idea of taking the company public. I always wanted to do an IPO for several reasons. After having been on Wall Street as a broker, remember when I was
Way back.
Yeah, way back. I like the public markets. I understand them, and I think that it's one way to get people to understand, like you, that this is a serious company, a contender for prominence in the world of business.
As the Bible tells us, pride goeth before a fall, and haughty spirit before destruction.
Tonight, 4 times guilty, and Martha Stewart faces living in prison.
Martha's boast that she knew so much about business was not lost on the jurors when they found her guilty of deliberately lying to federal investigators. Back in 1995, Martha gave us her thoughts on the question of sin that seemed so pedestrian we did not include them in our story. Just listen.
What are the 1 or 2 sins that you just cannot abide in people?
One thing is dishonesty. That bothers me a lot, and I'm always amazed at how many people are dishonest. And I think another maybe amorality.
Amorality.
Yes.
As opposed to immorality.
Well, immorality. Well, amorality. It's just a lack of morals. I think that is another thing that bothers me a lot. I know it is.
I mean, what...
So they're serious. I mean, very serious.
I'm thinking, what about sloth and laziness and idleness and
all that can be corrected.
sloppiness?
That can be corrected. Dishonesty just seems to be something that once you get into it, people just seem to not be able to get out of it.